Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a sports betting perspective. With pro handicappers Alex B. Smith and veteran sports writer Jimmy Murphy. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network, Saturday, October 30th. Ian Cameron, Andrew McInnis will be along momentarily as well, and we'll take you through a big Saturday NHL slate, and it is a big one. A lot of games on tap. Excited to break them all down. We've got two games that are starting this afternoon. Let's get into it. We start with the New York Islanders taking on the Nashville Predators. The New York Islanders minus 120, road favorites here in Music City, 5.5 the total, shaded to the under here in this game. This is the road trip that never ends for the New York Islanders. Of course, they're on the road for a very long time to begin the year as they wait for that beautiful brand new barn called UBS Arena to get finished and ready for their first home game. So it's a long road trip here for this New York Islanders team. And, there's going to be some ups and downs. And that's kind of the way it's been so far for them. 3-3 start in their first 6 games, all of them on the road. The good news for the Islanders is they finally have had some downtime. They have not played since last Sunday in a 2-0 victory over Vegas. So they've had some time on this, crazy long road trip to decompress, get some practice in. I think that's probably a benefit for them, a little bit more cohesion with the team top to bottom. So it should help them. I actually like the fact that, with all the road games they played early, that they get this little 6-day break in between games. Nashville's won back-to-back games against Minnesota and San Jose, back-to-back situation beating the Wild. And they kind of walked into a great spot against San Jose with the Sharks at the end of a very long, successful road trip, and I think they kind of took advantage of that. So the money's moved to the Islanders. I agree with that. If I'm betting this game, I would look at the Islanders side, minus 115 to minus 120. Like I say, I think Nashville, when they go up against superior teams, that's where they're going to have their struggles. All the wins for Nashville, the Minnesota one was the one quality win, but the other wins were LA and San Jose, which to me is not saying much. And let's not forget they had a loss to Seattle at home on the resume as well. So I like that the Islanders get a chance to hit the reset button, recharge those batteries for the last 6 days in the midst of this just brutal, grueling road trip. And I think that leads to a better performance today. So I lean Islanders here, minus 115, minus 120. Andrew is with us now. Andrew, what do you think here, Islanders and Predators?
Yeah, good to be with you, Ian. I'm right there with you. Same thoughts pretty much. And what's kind of funny is that typically when you look at a team on a long road trip like you have with the Islanders, maybe a break this long might be a little bit too long. You know what I mean? Like you want a little bit of a break, but this is a big break, but 13-game road trip for them to start the season. I think they're the type of team that uses a break like this wisely. They have a great coaching staff that will get them in the right order. So I'm right there with you. I think it's a good price. And we got the Predators off 2 straight wins, and they're, 2 pretty decent wins for them. Obviously not against, crazy opponents in both spots, but hey, I think we can argue that game against the Wild, it was a Wild bet on spot, and we saw Nashville win 5-2. So might have something to do with us getting a pretty good odds here. But I think the Islanders get back to it. I'm sensing kind of a 3-2 type of game here, 2-1, lower scoring Islanders game. I'd actually lean towards the under as well, Ian. I think Nashville, look at their advanced metrics right now. They're kind of playing beyond their means, and we should start seeing a little bit of regression here out of them.
All right, we got Montreal, Los Angeles. We got the Kings minus 115, home favorites, 5.5 being the total in this one. Montreal taking care of business against San Jose. We talked about how San Jose, long time, for many years, they've had trouble that first home game off a long East Coast trip, and they walked right into that again. Although they had a lot of chances, they actually had tons of shots in that game. Jake Allen was very strong in net for Montreal, which was good to see because it was kind of a rough game for him in Seattle the previous game. He had a much better outing last time out against the Sharks, and we'll see if Montreal can keep it up now today after getting that win in San Jose against Los Angeles, who are definitely struggling. They've lost 6 in a row, 3-2 loss to the Jets the other night. The road trip kind of ended on a bad note for them. They lost the last 5 games of that road trip, or actually the 4 games in that road trip, and then a home loss as well to Minnesota. So definitely been a struggle for the LA Kings as of late. and not a team I think that's playing with the confidence I need. Keep in mind, key injuries on the blue line, Doughty and Walker for the Kings. So you're talking about a team that's shorthanded on the blue line. Rob Blake, I've seen a lot of, the NHL insiders on Twitter talking about how he's looking for a defenseman actively in the trade market and looking to shore up this blue line, which is now severely shorthanded. So keep an eye on that. Montreal did finally, find the back of the net. I think 4 goals is probably the most they've scored in the game in a very long time. In fact, they haven't scored 4 in a game all season until finally the other night against San Jose. So maybe they can take advantage of this Kings team. I'm not on the side. I lean over 5.5 here, just because a little bit of maybe the lights turned on a little bit for the Canadians offensively. They finally got, some production the other night against the Sharks. 4 goals, their high water mark for the year. They're facing an undermanned Kings defense. So maybe that's the tonic to keep the offense going. And I think the Kings can find the back of the net too. I mean, the chances have been there for the Kings. It's just the goals have not been going in consistently. So we'll lean over 5.5 just a little bit. Small bet for me on that. Andrew, what do you think here? Kings and Habs.
Yeah, pretty much the exact same thoughts as you, Ian. I'm right there on the over with you. I can tell kind of the same thing as you. It's not my biggest play on the card by any means. One thing of note to watch over for, because this was a problem for the Canadians for years, and then they got Jake Allen, and Carey Price had a pretty good backup. But have you noticed, Ian, that it doesn't seem like Ducharme's too confident in Montembeault? I mean, it's literally just Jake Allen, right?
It shouldn't be. Montembeault didn't have a good preseason.
No, he's hesitant. He's hesitant to go to him. So that could be an issue, but I don't see any confirmation, but it's pretty much 100% we're going to get Jake Allen tonight, right?
They have not confirmed it for sure yet, but I would think it's going to be Jake. It's expected to be him and Cal Peterson, the 2 goalies here in this game. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm on the over with you, and partially I do lean to the Canadians because I think that you saw what happened last game, and I think that a lot of us thought after that Detroit win they would kind of spark their offense a little bit when they head out on the road trip. But this might be the opportunity. You look what happened against Seattle. Just flat spot for them. Obviously, we joked around about them enjoying that night out on Monday Night Football. Great bounce back against San Jose, but I was impressed with not even just, seeing a couple guys score, but just seeing for the first time ever production out of every single line, Ian. As a Canadians fan, obviously I watch a lot of hockey, but specifically, I'm watching these games. And one thing I really noticed is that it wasn't just one line bringing it. Every line was kind of bringing it. Also, I got a tendency to believe here that both these teams kind of rough it up a little bit. And you sort of start to see that as a road trip progresses. You see more penalties. And one thing as a Habs fan I haven't really been too impressed with is costly penalties at untimely times. I mean, this has been a team that, Ben Sherratt, he's someone that takes a lot of bad penalties. Yoel Armia took a really bad one. Jonathan Drouin, as good as he's been, he took a few hooking penalties. As much as the LA Kings are younger now, they're not scared to be physical. And I feel like even 1 or 2 power plays could make the difference for you and I cashing that over ticket. Haven't got there on the window with the Canadians yet, but at this price, I'm really kind of convincing myself here to grab them because I feel like the next time these 2 teams play, we won't see that exact same price here. And as much as we bet to win, we also bet with value. And I feel like the value is on the Canadians here.
All right, next up, we've got Winnipeg, San Jose. The rest of the games, by the way, are night games, just to clarify that. Mm-hmm. Even money here, both sides in this game, 6 the total. This was a pretty easy decision for me to back Winnipeg in this game against San Jose. I mean, the Sharks, to me, are kind of coming back down to earth after that great start. They've been on the road a long time. They lost the last 2 on the trip to Boston, Nashville. They were flat in the first game. And I think they'll be better tonight, but Winnipeg's going to remember the last time they played San Jose. They had a great start, and they just collapsed in the third period, and San Jose came back and won 4-3. I think there's an onus on the Jets. Hey, redemption time here tonight in the Shark Tank against San Jose, and I've been impressed with the Jets. Why have they won 4 straight with no Scheifele, no Wheeler? Simple. Kyle Connor's been all-world. Pierre-Luc Dubois has been all-world. These guys have been terrific. We needed guys to pick up the slack in the forward group without Scheifele and Wheeler. Those are the 2 that have done that for the Winnipeg Jets. Andrew Kopp's been big for them as well during this stretch. We know what you're going to get from Nikolai Ehlers. Evgeny Svechnikov. Paul Maurice has had him on the top line, the second line, the third line. He's bounced him up and down the forward lines the last few games, but he's made an impact as well for the Jets. And look, even the other night with Eric Comrie in net, they find the way to get the win against the Kings. It's probably going to be back to Connor Hellebuck, you would think, tonight in the game here against the San Jose Sharks. Aiden Hill kind of, not quite as sharp as he was early in the year, which to me isn't totally unexpected. I just think Winnipeg with great confidence. They're frustrated. I know they were frustrated with losing the fashion they did against San Jose early in the season when they played here in the Shark Tank. And I think now these two teams are in different spaces right now. Winnipeg's playing good hockey at this point in time. San Jose's kind of come back down to earth a little bit after that very unexpected start. So even money here, I'm going to back the Jets to keep this great run going. Andrew, what do you think? Winnipeg, San Jose.
Well, Ian, so far we're kind of on the same page here. So it sounds like if I have a great day, you have a great day, and vice versa. So
yeah,
far,
that's pretty much does. Yeah.
So let's get it done. Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I think that some people, they're in the boat, Ian, where they think that if a team is constantly coming back or winning games just by a little bit, might be a bad thing. I feel like it's great, especially with this Jets team that, like you just listed, has players out but has other guys stepping up. I couldn't believe it. I'll just be honest. I had them in regulation in their last game. I was lucky for them to even win the game. What a third period. We've got some great stats here going, and we're always we've got Chris keeping track of these third period totals for us. I wonder what the numbers are here, Ian, for the Winnipeg Jets winning third periods. I mean, have you noticed that as well? It seems like they're constantly, stepping up when it matters the most in crunch time and not having, bad endings to their game. So I'm right there with you. And I feel like they're even going to want to correct that, play better defensively, have a good start to their game. I may even look at Winnipeg on the first period as well, just simply to catch this team off guard. And, we constantly are talking about regression right now. And I feel like with a team like the Sharks, you talked about them kind of come back down to earth. That's about exactly what they're about to do right now. And I think that we're going to start seeing that with a few different teams. And this is a pretty good spot to do it here for them. The funny thing is, usually you see that stuff happen on the road. But the funny thing is, it's going to happen here for the Sharks at home.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest with you, they've not had a great home record the last couple of years. Well, the last couple of years, they haven't been as good, but their home record it's nowhere near the heyday of San Jose with Thornton and Marlowe and Pavelski and those great playoff run teams of the San Jose Sharks where they had a good home ice. It's not the case anymore. Yeah. And look, Winnipeg pissed it away the last time they played in San Jose. It was like the first couple days of the year, and they had a lead, and they just blew it in the third period. I think they get him back here tonight in this game. By the way, I'm on Connor and I'm on Dubois goals. Dubois I really like. I mean, he's got great. 6 goals in 6 games. Is plus 220 for him to score a goal in a lot of books. So that's a great price, and it's not one I'm passing up. PLD, that's what they're calling him locally in Winnipeg. Pierre-Luc Dubois plus 220 here.
I wonder what that'd be like, to have a name like that. And eventually I think you kind of just give up. Like I used to do play-by-play for colleges, and they would literally just be like, you know what? If somebody had a tough name on the microphone, they would say, just call me this. And they don't want people to suffer through. And I'm sure not every arena knows how to say Pierre-Luc, even though it's not really a hard name.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's Pierre-Luc Dubois. Exactly. It's easy for me. There's a lot more difficult names to pronounce than that. There's no question. And then there's some people that forget to call Marc-Andre Mark, and maybe they called him just Pierre, because there's a lot of people that say Mark. How are you, Mark? Or how are you, Pierre? No, it's Pierre-Luc. It's not.
Yes, exactly.
It's not Pierre. It's Pierre-Luc. It's not Mark. It's Marc-Andre. You got to remember.
I know a girl named Anne Marie. I know someone named Anne Marie, and it's not the person you're thinking of, not the singer, and people are literally, they get mad if you call them Anne. It's like, no, that's not my name. You have to say the full name.
Yeah, it isn't. Yeah, get it right. It's the full name. You have to remember that. It offends some people too if you say it without the if you got a hyphenated first name and you don't complete the full name and say it out loud, they get offended by that.
Yeah,
I've seen that happen before. New Jersey and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh minus 160, home favorites, 6 the total in this game. We'll see how it goes here with these two. I know the Devils, that was a bad game the last time out against Calgary. 5-3 was actually a flattering final score. They were down 4-0 in that game. In fact, both of these teams off losses to Calgary. Pittsburgh got shut out by them 4-0 the last game. I just don't have much on this game. This is the one that definitely I didn't have much of an opinion on. It looks like Jeff Carter, though, the good news is expected to be cleared from COVID-19 protocol and expected to return to the Penguin lineup tonight, although Crosby's still likely going to be out. He's questionable, but I think they're going to rest him. And Chris Letang, Brian Rust, Malkin still out for Pittsburgh in this game. I just don't want to lay $1.60 with Pittsburgh. And they have kind of finally felt the effects of some of these guys missing, losing the last two. But New Jersey's not playing good enough that I can trust them. So this is a stay away for me. What do you like, Andrew? Devils, Penguins.
Are you sure, Ian, that Crosby's not in?
Let me just double check on that.
I'm checking it over right now because I'm pretty sure he's in. I think I saw that
Hold
earlier.
on. Yep, you might be right. I'm seeing. Yep, he is. There you go. He's in. So that Crosby and Carter both going to play here for the Penguins tonight. So it's just Malkin, Letang, and Rust that are still out. Crosby's in, Carter's in. So there you go.
So one thing about Crosby, and I'm a big, obviously, Crosby fan, being from here in the East Coast. I've always noticed with him, whenever he's had injury problems, he doesn't come back unless he's ready.
Yeah.
Some guys will come back, and it takes them a few games to get back into it. Even look at what happened with Austin Matthews, right? It took him a couple games to get back into it. And he even said it himself. Sidney Crosby will not come back and play hockey with his team on an NHL game unless he's ready. And I think that you have to think that with what we've seen from all of these guys being out of the lineup, how impressed and how excited these guys will be to come back in the lineup. Even Jeff Carter, who was out for a couple of games here, you have to think, seeing what they were able to do and Crosby being the leader he is, obviously there's lots of guys in the ice that took over that leadership role and stuff, but you have to think that they're thinking, wow, we had so many injuries, COVID protocol, and you guys were still able to do that. Now we get to play at home. Crosby's back in front of his home crowd, and people kind of undermine his defensive value as well, Ian. And again, I'm a fan, but I think that people really depreciate his 200-foot game value, and that's the thing when you talk about who's the better player, this guy or that guy, or who's going to go down as an all-time great or whatever. I think in a game that Sidney Crosby doesn't get a goal or a point, he still makes an impact on the defensive end of the ice too. In this game, actually, I've split up. I made a half wager on the money line and half wager on the puck line earlier today when I was first getting up, and the number just shot up completely. I mean, Pittsburgh money's coming in. People are loving Pittsburgh. It's very typical, players coming back into the lineup. But I don't know. I think that the funny thing is I looked at unders for quite a bit for the Devils, and I had a couple hits and a couple losses there. But that last game against Calgary was ridiculous. We talked about it. I think a couple of us here on the show were leaning towards New Jersey. But I think it just goes to show that New Jersey's defense is weak right now, and their goal production isn't there at all. Jack Hughes missing Miles Wood, missing Mackenzie Blackwood. That kind of stuff just piles up a little bit, and the expected goal numbers are not very good for the New Jersey Devils. So, the price, it's not great, and I understand why you said you didn't have a strong opinion on it, but I really do like the Penguins here. I'm on the -1, so if they win by 1 goal, it's a wash for me.
All right, so there you go. Pittsburgh, maybe in regulation is an option too. You'll get a decent price on that.
Sometimes I like the -1. I mix it up, Ian, because obviously if they win in overtime, you still push your bet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, obviously, if it goes to overtime, you get nothing if you bet it in regulation. And this is one of those games I'd take a chance in regulation because is New Jersey going to push it to overtime if they lose? I'm not totally sold on that. But yeah, that's definitely a little bit safer if you go -1 if you're concerned about the potential for the game going beyond regulation. By the way, the regulation in this game, even money, -105. That's actually a very good price with the regulation on Pitt. So I would lean to that. But I'm just with everybody coming back. I know they're excited. They're definitely, I think, capable of beating New Jersey tonight. But want to see how
what's your total
all the pieces fit together.
What's your total thoughts in this game?
Wow, that's I'd prefer. You know what I might do is actually is Pittsburgh team total over 3.5. That really because I don't know what New Jersey's going to score. New Jersey's offense looks broken and shambles with no Jack Hughes. Nico Hischier is supposed to be a guy that's going to step up in these spots, and he hasn't done that.
No.
It's been disappointing that Sharon Govich, highly touted prospect with a ton of skill and ability, and we haven't seen it out of him yet for this Devils team. Zach has been pretty quiet. Thomas Tatar, well, what else is new? He did nothing down the stretch for Montreal last year. So these are guys they count on with no Hughes, and they're not stepping up right now. So, so right now I would lean Pittsburgh in regulation. I don't know if I'll bet it. I'd probably stay out, but if I were, it'd be that in regulation, the Penguins or Pittsburgh team total over 3.5 at even money.
I'll say this. It impacts my wager, the fact that the Pittsburgh got dominated in their last 2 games. I don't know if that ever plays a factor to you in situations like this, but with guys coming back, I get what you mean. I could be kind of hesitant to back a team, but they've scored 1 goal in their last 2 games, gave up 5 against Tampa, 4 against Calgary. I mean, it wasn't impressive. So if there was ever a time to get your captain back, maybe this is the time, and you know they were going to wait until a home game to do so.
Yeah, definitely. For me, Pittsburgh's the more the preferred side for sure. Just how do you want to bet it? Do you want to go -1? Do you want to go regulation line? Do you want to go team total? I think team total, the more I start thinking about it, it makes the most sense to me. 3.5 at +100 sounds like a pretty solid price there. Actually, more than that. We're talking +125 actually with the team total for Pittsburgh over 3.5. So you get a good plus price with it if you go that route. Detroit, Toronto -300 home favorite, 6 the total, shaded to the under. We go from the highs and lows of the Leafs, where it's just despair before the Chicago game, and then they beat Chicago, and now all of a sudden Morgan Rielly is re-signed for the long term, so everybody's happy again in Leafland. They win, they get their one of their best defensemen re-signed, contract extension for the long term. It's actually a better deal than some of the deals Dubas has made with the likes of Marner and Nylander, among others. It's at least a little bit more. I think Morgan Rielly said, you know what, we'll back off at least a little bit on the demands just to stay in Toronto where we're, and he is comfortable. He said that in the interview. He's comfortable being in Toronto. So that's good news. Detroit's on the back-to-back. Valiant effort from the Red Wings last night. They were down 2-0 to Florida. They tied it up. They forced overtime. But Alexander Barkov, he is a guy that has been absolutely outstanding for this Florida team, and he did it again last night with the overtime winner, 3-2. Back-to-back now for Detroit. Detroit, though, at this price range, I'm not interested going against them. The question is going to be, will Toronto carry over the momentum they got from that comeback win against Chicago? They're definitely the rested team as well. It's just the price range is astronomical. I'm passing on this one overall, side and total, probably both ways. I'm going to stay out of it. Oh, anything here for you, Andrew? Detroit, Toronto.
Well, Ian, yeah, the price is out of this world. It's ridiculous, quite honest. You know, it's one of those spots where what I want to do is wait and see what happens in the first 10, 15 minutes of this game. If we don't get a goal, I'm going to jump in on that live over. I feel like we could see a slow start to this one and it could pick up. And even though it's a back-to-back, I feel like that's kind of when you get the effort is out the gate with the tired team. And then as the game progresses, you start to see it. A lot of young guys in that team, though. It's early in the season. As I've mentioned, back-to-backs aren't a huge deal. But you got Toronto. And Elliot Friedman made a pretty good point. He said that if they lost that game against Chicago, they have no idea what was waiting for them at Rogers Arena. That's what it's called now, right?
Yeah.
He's like they have no idea what's waiting for them. I mean, they had a 2-3 record, Ian, and somebody threw a jersey on the ice.
Yeah.
In Toronto, So I think it's huge for them to get that win. They're going to be looking forward to coming out there. Part of me likes the over in this game because one thing I'll say about this Florida team, people are really undervaluing their defensive ability. 2 great goaltenders. They play tight checking. Toronto's not that. Toronto isn't that, so they play a lot more open style. And I feel like because Florida is so talented offensively, nobody really gives them credit on the back end or the goaltending position. Would you agree with that at all?
They're improved defensively, no doubt. And Bobrovsky's been outstanding. Bobrovsky is like the top goalie and goals saved above average. So it's not just that the goals against and the save percentage are good. The advanced number, which is a greater indicator of just how good a goalie's been, is right there for Bobrovsky. And of course, they played well in front of him. The defense has improved. Having Ekblad back has been a difference maker for them. So yeah, I agree. Florida's defense has improved. Toronto can play solid defensively at times. I like what he's doing, though, splitting up some of these pairings. Like the Hall and Muzzin pair, which was so good last year, has been a train wreck the last few games for the Leafs, and he's splitting them up. I think that actually could help the Leafs defensively tonight. So second to back, and who's in net too, by the way, is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be Grice for Detroit because it was Nedeljkovic last night. For Toronto, it's Mrazek, and he's fired up to play his former team.
Yes,
and it wouldn't.
It could not have been scripted any better.
Well. That's why I'm neutral on the total. I think it could be an over, it could be an under. Neither would shock me.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to find, like, believe me, I want to find a way to bet on the Maple Leafs. That's just a fact. And the funny thing is, I've been hesitant to bet on team totals. And I'm kind of surprised, Ian, that you aren't looking at the team total here because you were looking at them for a little while. Are you just kind of staying off because we haven't seen it come from them? Or because if anything, I feel like this might be the spot. They're coming in with some energy. They're feeling good about themselves after a win, and they're back home. Maybe this is the final. Maybe this is finally the spot.
I just wish it was better than minus 135. I don't like that price.
For the over 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right, Florida and Boston. We've got Boston minus 130, home favorites, 6 the total. I ain't going against the undefeated Panthers. Florida pass. I know it's revenge, short turnaround revenge for Boston. They lost in Florida just a few days ago. Now they're playing in Boston, and the Bruins do seem to play a little bit better at home. And it is a back-to-back year for the Panthers, catching the Bruins catching the Panthers after being in Detroit last night. But boy, this Florida team has just been magnificent. No problem. They still found a way to win in spite of the fact that, they had the coaching change. Obviously, Andrew Brunette taking over as the interim coach after Joel Quenneville was dismissed as the head coach or resigned, whatever. He's not the head coach there anymore. Now Florida still found a way to win. Very workmanlike, business-like attitude, which is what I really like to see out of this Florida team. And that's the way they played all season long. Look, we got to say it about the Bruins here. The 3 wins are Dallas, Buffalo, and San Jose in a brutal spot at the end of the road trip.
I'm with you.
I mean, Boston hasn't beaten anybody good. Simple as that. They have not beaten a quality opponent yet this year, and I'm not convinced tonight's that night. I mean, a back-to-back might keep me off it because of that, but it's Florida or nothing for me. I don't want the Bruins here. I don't want to step in front of this train that is the Florida Panthers right now. And I will say this about this Panthers team. Dating back to last year, 4-0 run on the second night of back-to-back games for the Panthers. So this is Florida for me if I'm betting it. Andrew, Panthers, Bruins.
Yeah, I saw a tweet here. Knight is 6-0 to start his career. Panthers are 8-0 starting this season off, obviously. And I talked about that goalie tandem they have. How great is it in the NHL? I mentioned before. I remember when I was growing up, it was like if the backup goalie was in, it shifted the odds completely. It was like, okay, the backup's in net, the other team should win the game. The backup was a huge difference. And for this team to have, a 1-2 punch like they do, it's quite impressive. But, the funny thing is, Ian, the bets that I haven't faded the Bruins like I would like to have. I've actually just took overs with them because I thought, they were a defensive team. And then I talked with Jimmy and I thought about it myself. I'm like, you know what? Their defensive core isn't that great. And then what's happened was it wasn't they weren't scoring themselves, Excuse me. It was the other team doing the bulk of it. So they weren't really helping and contributing with the over. I'll say this. My lean here is actually on the Bruins at home. Back when you and I were talking about this game on the show a couple of days ago when these two teams first met, I said that I look at Florida here. And then I said, I'm probably going to be looking at the Bruins back at the Garden. And I just think it sets up for a pretty good spot here. Last night, tough game. Don't let them know that they almost lost to the Detroit Red Wings. And I think that you have a Bruins team hungry, waiting for them. And I think they get the job done here. One thing I don't like was the price. I mean, you got an 8-0 team against the Bruins here, and we're getting, pretty much a pick 'em. I thought that was kind of weird to see, but I like the Bruins. I think they're the team that snaps the streak here for the Florida Panthers. We'll see how long this can go here, but if there's a spot that I feel like it might get snapped, I think it might be tonight.
All right, lean in Bruins to potentially hand the Florida Panthers their first loss of the season. We'll see if they can do that here in Boston against this Panthers team that, again, they're complete. I mean, their power play's good, penalty kill's good, offense, defense, the goaltending's been there. This has been a one hell of a start to the year for the Florida Panthers. No question about that. DraftKings, time to mention them, of course. DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NFL and the NHL. New customers, you can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game on Sunday. And if they do, you win $200 in free bets. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. That's simple. If DraftKings isn't available in your state or you're in Canada, don't worry. You can still play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game and win $200 in free bets. If they win, you win with promo code THPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NFL and NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older, residing in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download that DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Sign up for an account. Use the promo code THPN. All right, we continue along now on this Saturday slate. Chicago and St. Louis. The Blues minus 190. Home favorites, 6 the total in this game. The Blues had their 5-0 start to the year snapped by Colorado. The other night, nice victory for the Avalanche, 4-3. Now St. Louis will try to right the ship. There's a couple of these games tonight where it's bubble burst theory. You know, a team playing their first game after losing their first game of the season. And I worry about the teams in these kind of situations that they lose that first game. It's not always easy to, just immediately get right back on track. Chicago on the other side, it's a back-to-back situation for them. They're clearly struggling. The defensive play has not been good enough. You look at, they've given up at least 4 goals in all but one game, and that was against Toronto. The defense has been bad. They're still searching for their first win. They're now playing on the second night of back-to-back games, and they haven't been great on the second night of back-to-back games, and they haven't been good head-to-head lately against St. Louis either. St. Louis has won 4 straight head-to-head against Chicago, but this is just one of those sneaky, weird, gut feel type of situations for me, especially with Fleury back in net. And look, they've had just as much trouble winning with Fleury in net as Lankinen. Who's
Definitely.
kidding who? But I get the sense now that they're finally going back to Marc-Andre Fleury that Chicago might be balls to the wall with their effort tonight, because if this isn't a night for them to step up after getting pretty much roasted by Carolina last night, when's it going to happen for them? So I'm actually taking a small, I can't say it with utmost confidence, but I'm taking a small flyer on Chicago here, plus 170. To maybe get that first win, because St. Louis, after the first loss of the year, I don't know. And this team's still giving up shots, still giving up chances. And, I think their defensive game, the Blues, has slipped a little bit. The difference is they can score. There's no question. Their offense has been fine, even without a couple of key players in the lineup, the last few games, like Saad, like O'Reilly, who are still going to be out tonight. Perron's been good. Tarasenko has been outstanding lately. Jordan Kyrou has been a good offensive force for them. They found offense from other teams, or from other sources, I should say, without Saad and O'Reilly. I like the over, too, in this game. It's hard not to, with the way Chicago's struggling to keep the puck out of their own net. We've cashed a bunch of St. Louis overs recently. I was disappointed I stayed off Colorado with that 4-3, and it went over the total, even without Saad and O'Reilly in the lineup for the Blues. So I like the over, and I'm going to have a small little taste of Chicago here at plus 170, just because I think with Fleury back, I'm going to be bold here that maybe they can get this first win. With Fleury back, I think it's dig in time, all out effort, see if you can steal a win here on the road in St. Louis. And it's the Blues are still one of those teams I don't like laying these kind of prices. I still don't trust them when they're almost a minus 200 favorite like this. Andrew, your thoughts here, Hawks and the Blues.
And nobody said that they can't give up goals. They just score a lot of goals themselves. That's kind of the way I see it with the St. Louis Blues right now. And also, Ian, you and I can take a few flyers and a few shots today, because you and I each cashed a winner last night with your Hamilton Tire Cats. So we got some bankroll to take some shots here with the underdogs.
For them. Very happy with that.
Big win. Yeah, I was super excited. I was completely shocked by the 5.5. for everybody out there watching, I messaged Ian after I already made the play, and I was just messaging him pretty much saying how shocked I was. Ian's response was just, "Yep, huge game. I'm on them too." So yeah, CFL, good night for us last night. But I'm on the team total, Ian, for the Blackhawks here, over 2.5. I got it at -113 or 14 for the Blackhawks here, and it's the same. Well, a lot of the same stuff you said. I feel like we'll get a full effort out of them. I don't think with this team right now there's any type of back-to-back issue. It's going to be balls to the wall. Last night was a tough game for them. Last night was one of those nights for me, and I wasn't on the show, but it was one of those nights. I've told you I've kind of struggled this year so far deciding with my volume. How many games to play this night, how many to play, and of course last night I stay off a lot of games, didn't play too much, which is why it was kind of worked out. I wasn't on the show yesterday, didn't really have much to offer. But I lean towards that over in Chicago, Carolina. That Carolina's another over team. You know what I mean? But what did we see yesterday happen? If you made a square parlay yesterday, you made some good money. I mean, what was it? 4 favorites hit. The Arizona Coyotes lost. We saw all that stuff. So the last night was frustrating for me. But one thing I've learned with the Chicago team is that even in some games where they're playing pretty bad, they actually don't give up. They play a full 60. And so I feel like, they could have 2 goals going into the third period and be down, 4-2. And I could still have hope to cash that team total. Obviously, for Ian's sake, I hope they're up 4-2. But that's where I'm going here. It's a little bit of a safer route. But I think they get at least 3 goals tonight on St. Louis.
All right, we got Minnesota, Colorado next up. Colorado -160, home favorites, 5.5 the total here in this game. It'll be interesting to see how it goes between these 2 teams. I am a little bit concerned that Minnesota struggled in Colorado, 3-7 the last 10 meetings in Colorado. I think Colorado's won 3 of the last 4 head-to-head hosting Minnesota, and they beat St. Louis to 4-3 the other night, bouncing back from that 3-1 home loss to the Vegas Golden Knights. But I'm going to say this right now about Colorado. Home favorites against Vegas, they lost. Home favorites against St. Louis, first week of the year, they lost. Their only home win was Chicago, and Chicago's a winless hockey team. I think Minnesota's the side. I'm going to look at Minnesota here potentially at +140. Off a loss to Seattle, 4-1 the other night. Good bounce back spot for them. And I think in a late October game this early in the season, who wants to prove more against the other team in a game like this? I think that's Minnesota, because they're the team that, wants to get to where Colorado's been the last few. And Colorado's still up and down. One game they look good like they did against St. Louis, and the next game they haven't been. So I lean to Minnesota. A lot of over trends going into this game tonight between the Wild and the Avalanche as well. 5-1-1 to the over the last 7 meetings in Colorado, 5-0 to the over the last 5 head-to-head games overall with these 2 teams. There are some 5.5s out there. DraftKings, we always want to mention them. DraftKings has 5.5 for the total here in this Minnesota Colorado game. At 5.5, at 6, I lean over, but at 5.5, and I'm seeing 5.5s out there at multiple books, I'm on the over for an official play here in this game. So I like the dog and I like the over here. I mean, I just like this price with Minnesota coming off the defeat to the Kraken and a game where I think Minnesota, hey, we want to test ourselves against the Avs. And to be honest, I'm still not sold on the Av defense. Without Devon Taves, their best stay-at-home defenseman. Kemper's been hit or miss. The goaltending's been up and down from him. So I think I like the Wild potentially to pull off the road win here as dogs, and I like the over 5.5 as well. Andrew, Wild and Avs.
Yeah, I'm going to go first period, the Alex B special here. First period over 1.5, -120 is what I locked in. I do like that 5.5 if you can find it, but it's tough to get it. Hopefully you guys have a DraftKings account. You can get that number there with them. And I feel like, Ian, this is the kind of game where in every other sport we handicap, you kind of say, don't buy points, right? NFL, people always recommend don't buy points. But in the NHL with total betting, getting the 5.5 is key here. And if you can find that, shop around. I feel like it's worth getting a little more of a juice on that. And Minnesota, obviously not coming off their best performance here. And let's be honest, Colorado, Ian, you kind of said it. You said one good game, one bad game. But I think it's also just been they haven't had their consistent lineup throughout their entire year so far. Obviously, still missing some key guys, but I don't know. I thought that game was huge for them against the Blues. I felt like it was a good bet on spot for the Avalanche. But I'm still not high on them defensively, man, at all. I still feel like they're going to give up some goals. And so I think the Wild are going to be hungry. And I feel like it starts from the get-go. So I'm on the first period over 1.5.
All right, first period over 1.5, Minnesota, Colorado for Andrew. All right, Philadelphia and Calgary. Calgary minus 150, home favorite, 6 the total in this game. Calgary's been on an incredible run. What a road trip. They just whipped through it and ran the table on that road trip. Incredibly impressive. Detroit, Washington, Rangers, Devils, Penguins, that 5-game road trip, and they won all 5 games. But man, does that ever set up for a potential, just, you know what this is like. And I've been betting NHL for 10 years, and that first home game off of not only a long road trip, and it was a long one, through the Eastern time zone, and now you're back west, and a successful one, it's usually a clunker and a stink fest for that home team off a long and successful road trip. There's no way I would lay $1.50 with Calgary in this spot. Right away, it's Philadelphia. And look, Philly's won 4 of the last 5. They've taken the first 2 games in this Western Canadian swing, beating the Oilers, handing the Oilers their first loss in that Wednesday night game on TNT, and then second night of back-to-backs, and with Martin Jones in net, and they still find a way to emerge victorious 2-1 in that game. So give the Flyers credit. What I like from Philadelphia is Claude Giroux's played really well lately for them, which is good. When he's going, the team is going for this Flyers team. We're seeing that in recent games. Travis Konechny has been solid. James Van Riemsdyk gets on the board. Couturier has stepped up. The guys that you want to see play well. Atkinson's been a nice find, getting him from Columbus last year. Joel Farabee has given them some offense. So they've all of a sudden got some offense from a wide variety of different sources. And that's what's given them the chance to win these games. And with just how brutal a situation this is for Calgary, for as good as they're playing, I've seen the home game following a long, successful road trip, even if they were streaking and even if they were winning on that road trip every single game. I've seen these first home games really put the brakes on a team playing some good hockey. It's just so difficult, right? You're happy. People are singing your praises. You got family shit to tend to back home now that you're back home off the road. I'm definitely going to look at the Flyers in some fashion for some kind of bet, maybe small, maybe medium, but I will be on Philly here, plus 130 in this spot at this price. Andrew, Flames hosting the Flyers.
Well, it's hard to argue that based on what we've seen so far this season. If you've bet teams off a road trip larger than 2 or 3 games, their first game home, you've made some good money doing that. And so far, it hasn't really mattered who that team has been. The question is right now at this point in the NHL season, how much do we try and consider regression and how much do we follow trends? Because I haven't really done that as much. I have a little bit, but for example, the Anaheim Ducks, out the gate of the season, I was like, this is an under team, dead nut under. The younger guys in that team have turned them into an over team. They made every game competitive. Philadelphia, the funny thing about them is that we've got everybody talking about, Claude and Cam Atkinson and Couturier, Konechny. These guys have lived up to expectations and done what they've had to do for Philly, man. Like, it's been one of those things where I've said that, they can't be a good team because they only have a few guys that can score. Well, here's the thing, Ian. Those are the guys that are doing the scoring. So it doesn't matter who else is out there as for right now. And for the Flames, look, I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to take the over 6 because I think you have to constantly be adjusting your handicapping. I had the Flames as an under team to start the year. I feel like they'll end up getting there as an under team. It looks like Markstrom might be the guy. He's played outstanding hockey. Carter Hart, he's obviously, 2.73 goals against average. He's, kept his team in it, but they're giving him lots of run support, goal support. But I just think that this game should see some goals here. And when you look at a first game after a road trip, you want to look to either fade the team or look towards the over, I think. Don't look towards an under, I don't think, when a team's first game back, because I feel like sloppiness, fatigue leads to goals. Doesn't lead to lack of.
Well, Minnesota, Vancouver, we thought that earlier this week, and that didn't happen. But it barely stayed under, but it did stay under.
You're right about that. You're right, and I was on that over, and so were you. But I think things are different because Minnesota was still a little bit up and down with their scoring, but Philadelphia is coming in with confidence on this game, and Calgary too. It's not like we've seen Vancouver light it up every game, and Calgary's got a lot of confidence right now. So I don't know. I can't picture a quote for quote stinker from Calgary. I can see them losing the game, 5-3 or something like that. But I'd be shocked to see a 3-1 game here for Philadelphia. I'd be shocked.
The thing that concerns me too is they didn't get any downtime. Like, it's not like you have 2, 3, 4 days off after that final game on the road against Pittsburgh. You're back at it 48 hours later.
But to me, that helps the over case, doesn't it?
Yeah, it could. Yeah, because there's just not that amount of down. It could definitely. And look, Calgary's been scoring, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4 goals their last 5 games. And Philly, the first the 5 spot they put up against Edmonton. It was a low-scoring game against Vancouver, but, before that, they had put up 6 against Boston, Seattle, 4 against Vancouver the first game. They had scored 2 against Florida, but as we mentioned, Florida's a good, much improved defensive team this year. So I don't hate the over. I just like the side more. Philly at the plus 130 here in this one against Calgary. And if Calgary wins this game, that's going to be extremely impressive because it's not just the first home game off a 5-game Eastern swing. So you're crossing 2 time zones if you're Calgary, there and back. But then again, only the 1 full day to rehabilitate, recuperate following that road trip. That's not a lot. So, that's why I think this may not be Calgary's A game tonight. And we'll see if that is indeed the case with this Flyers and Flames matchup tonight in the late night hours. All right, Edmonton and Vancouver, the final game on this Saturday slate. Should be a good one here. Oilers minus 145, road favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. The first loss of the season came for the Oilers against that Philadelphia team that we just talked about. A 5-1 loss in that game. Mike Smith has been injured, of course. He's been battling the leg injury the last little bit, which is why Mikko Koskinen has had all the starts for the Oilers. But I'm expecting Mike Smith to be available. Doesn't mean he's going to start, but it looks like he's going to be available here for the Oilers tonight. In net, Thatcher Demko expected to start, as you would expect for Vancouver in this game. And look, Mike Smith, 3.08 goals against, .920 save percentage early in the year. We'll see if indeed Mike Smith returns. This is an interesting one because the team that loses that first game of the year, I'm not usually rushing to bet on them in the next game. And that's the way I feel, just like I felt about St. Louis. I feel that same way here too about Edmonton here in this game. Vancouver's, though, not playing their best. They have had a rough start to this homestand. The Minnesota loss, the Philly loss, 2 frustrating losses, both of them by just a goal. They were really right in both games, but weren't able to score enough here. Their offense kind of dried up a little bit. The Canucks, the first 2 games of this homestand for them. See if they can get back on track against Edmonton tonight. I definitely lean at home dog here with the Canucks, but I don't like the way they've started out this homestand. And look, if they're not going to score, it's not always the recipe to beat Edmonton because it's hard to keep Edmonton down to 3 goals or less. And if even Edmonton scores 3, that might be enough to win. With Vancouver, having a tough time the first 2 home games here, putting the puck in the net all of a sudden. So all of a sudden, Elias Pettersson's been pretty quiet. Horvat, Garland, a lot of guys that were big for them on the road trip and winning the games they did on the road have not really been finding the back of the net here the first 2 home games of this homestand for the Canucks. So I lean Vancouver, but it's not going to be anything more than a small bet, if anything, for me. Andrew, what do you think? Edmonton, Vancouver.
I'm passing this game, Ian. Nothing for me. Kind of a wait and see, a learning game here, both these 2 teams.
Nothing wrong with that, especially on a big card. Just pass and see if you can learn something for future games involving Edmonton and Vancouver. Great stuff with Andrew McInnis. That is the Saturday card. We thank everybody for joining us live and appreciate you guys tuning in on a Saturday. And reminder, we'll be with you tomorrow as well, noon Eastern, for another edition of the Ice Guys, breaking down the Sunday card, which has 5 games on the schedule tomorrow. We'll break those down for you at noon Eastern right here on the Ice Guys show. So join us tomorrow for that. We'll wrap up the show now with best bets. Andrew, we'll start with you. What do you like for your Saturday NHL best bet?
Yeah, I'm going to make it the half bet here on the money line, half on the puck line here. Pittsburgh Penguins -1 is my best bet against the New Jersey Devils at home.
All right, there you go. Pittsburgh -1 to get the job done against the New Jersey Devils. Jeff Carter back, Sidney Crosby back, and off 2 straight losses to good teams, though. Tampa,
yeah,
Calgary's the way they've been playing. So it's not like Pittsburgh lost to the Sisters of the Poor the last 2 games. They've been able to, they were losing to some pretty good teams that were playing well at the time. So Pittsburgh -1 against New Jersey, best bet for Andrew McInnis. And my best bet's going to be the Winnipeg Jets, even money, -105, best price out there. Winnipeg -105 against San Jose. Payback time. They just coughed up that game in San Jose the first week of the year. They're now playing much better, the Jets. Even without Scheifele and Wheeler, they found ways to win. And on the flip side, San Jose, 3 straight losses. We knew San Jose wasn't going to be this 4-0, 4-1 team forever, and they've started to fall back down a little bit. So Winnipeg -105 against San Jose for my best bet for this Saturday card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live on YouTube 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major.
Oh, I lost you, Ian.
There we go. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Make sure you download the Ice Guys podcast on all those platforms. For Andrew McInnis, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck. Cash some tickets on the ice, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Sunday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.